No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. Hello, gardeners. Hope you're all having a great week in your gardens. I'm looking at my project for today. I've got all of these different tomato varieties here growing. We've got tons of awesome tomatoes here. Everything looking really nice, really healthy, but I've got to get all of these transplanted. As you can tell, they are more than ready to get out of these cells here. So let's get growing. All right. Welcome, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people, to Let's Get Growing, your weekly gardening livecast here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. And, well, our show is not exactly as we have planned it today. So I got to let you all know right up top here. We were planning to have a great discussion today with Professor Cathie Martin from Norfolk Plant Sciences, all about the purple tomato that she developed. And unfortunately, our featured guest has backed out here pretty last minute. So our show's going to be a little bit different today. And I apologize to everybody who's been really looking forward to this interview. I have been looking forward to it myself. I had tons and tons of questions, and as I can already see from our comment section, you have had questions as well too. In fact, we've had some questions coming in on the feed for the last few days, a few comments and things like that I actually had to take down. So ultimately, it might have been a real fun interview, but we're going to have to hold off on that. So today we do have with us, though, Nicole Smith from Nicole Smith Gardening, and she is really lucky today. She gets to be our featured guest on the show. See, it's how our featured guest has canceled. We are going to have a nice discussion with Nicole anyway. So we're going to have a great show anyways. It doesn't even matter. We're going to talk all about gardening, because that's where what we are. We are here to represent the gardening community and have fun and discuss all of our passions for growing here on our show. And that's exactly what we're going to do anyway. So maybe we avoided just a little bit of controversy. I do, however, have just a few parting thoughts on the purple tomato, which I will talk about in just a little bit. But I do want to remind everybody, if you are here and joining with us right now, definitely hit that thumbs up, click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. In fact, I think, and I didn't really check last minute, but we were literally just a couple subscribers away from 15,000 subscribers on our channel. How amazing is that? I started this channel a while back ago just for fun and to kind of share just a little bit of gardening and all of that with everybody. And here we are years later at 15,000 subscribers. How awesome is that? I know there's bigger channels out there, but you know what? I am perfectly happy with the community that we have developed right here on the Urban Gardener channel. We have such wonderful gardeners in our community, and that I am very proud of when it comes to what we've accomplished here on the Urban Gardener channel. Now, I also want to remind all of you too, though, let's grow this audience. Let's get more people into our community. So let's share out our show, live streams, videos, whatever, share us out, share out the Urban Gardener channel to everybody out there. Let's bring some more people into our gardening community and have some more fun with growing here. And also at the top of the show, big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching on our replay. I know not a lot of you don't have the time to come and join with us here for a live show on the weekends, and you watch throughout the week. I see those numbers climb and climb throughout the week. So I know there's a lot of you out there. So definitely be sure to get down in the comment section below. Let me know you're here watching. Let me know where you're growing from, what you've got growing on. I love hearing from all of you out there as well too. And one last thing too, real quick, come down to our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group, appropriately named for our show. There's a link right down below in the description as well to that. That's another place where you yourself can join in our community and share your gardens, your pictures, your thoughts, questions, ideas, all that sort of stuff. It's a great, great gardening community, as I already said. So definitely come and join with us there if you're on Facebook and share with me all of your gardens and all of the things that you've got growing on this year. I would love to see them. If you do have a question or comment or anything at all, definitely get into our comments and our chat box here for the live show, and we just might feature that on the show here as we are going along today. So awesome. I do want to remind everybody too, though, we did have a really great conversation this last week with gardener Linda Vodder, Garden Inspired Life. Linda is a wonderful, awesome gardener, very prominent here on YouTube. She does some amazing, really cool videos. I really love that last week, getting to watch a bunch of her videos and everything. She does a really great job. We had an awesome conversation on the show. As well, we got to meet Rochelle Bingham from Brampton Gardener. So definitely be sure to go back to our video live page here on the channel and go check out some of our previous shows, especially last week's show with Linda Vodder and Rochelle Bingham, Brampton Gardener. And then also too, last week we had a discussion with Rachel Andorfer from Oxheart Gardening on our Sunday edition, where we talked all about getting our garden spaces ready and started for the growing season. So lots of great fun gardening discussion on our Sunday edition as well too. So definitely go back and check out some of our previous shows as well too. Awesome. So great to have you all here. I see the comments are really already going. I'm going to catch up with all of you in just a moment. Just a little bit of a heads up what we've got growing on here. As you saw at the very beginning there, I showed you my tomato starts. I started these tomatoes just a couple weeks back. They're already growing like crazy. It's one of the things too, is we start our peppers so far in advance. I mean, we started those months ago because peppers can take forever to grow. I'm always kind of adjusting and working the timing on my tomatoes because they are just really fast growers for sure. I took my eye off of them for just a moment. I talked about this, I think, last week or the week before. Took my eye off of them for just a moment, and I ended up getting some pretty leggy starts on some of them because they were reaching for some light and I didn't have them under there. I was trying a different method of putting them on top of the lights. Great idea though too, to warm up the cell containers in order to make sure your seeds are are germinating nicely and fast, and all of that works really well for peppers, works extremely well for tomatoes, as I found out because I took my eye off of them for just a minute and ended up with some pretty leggy starts. But you know what the cool thing is if there's anything that you're starting from seed that goes leggy, it's going to be tomatoes that you want. Not want, you don't really want it, but if it's going to happen, tomatoes would be the one out of all of the different ones that would be okay, because tomatoes, you can deep plant these. So if they get a little bit leggy, you just let them kind of get a little bit solid, let those stems get a little bit more just thicker and stronger, and then at that point in time, we can bury those right down to the top leaves pretty much. And that's what I'm going to be doing when I transplant these out later today, burying them up, and then they'll start to develop roots throughout the stem there, and that'll also increase the root capacity of the root ball on your tomato plants. One of the misnomers out there though too, that a lot of people think that the hairs, you see all these really cool hairs on the stem of a tomato, those are trichomes. They are not actually where the roots are. These are just kind of ways for the plant to be able to bring in extra moisture and that sort of stuff. What will happen though is throughout the stem, as far as burying it, it will develop little nodules. And you'll see these, especially as your plants start to mature even more, right up above the soil level. You see these little white bumps that start to pop out from your tomatoes. And that's where it'll start to develop some new roots from the stalk of the plant, or even the stems too, the stems that reach out anywhere on a tomato plant like that. I mean, you can really bury these things deep when it comes down to it. The only thing is we learned from Gardener Scott a couple of weeks back, is that that does kind of set your plant back a little bit as it has to adjust. And so it's going to start working on the root system. You won't see as much growth on top as it's trying to adjust, but tomatoes, again, are really fast growers. They're going to figure it out real fast, and you'll get those out really well in time. And I'm looking forward to doing that too, because the weather around here is really, truly starting to warm up. I really can't believe it. I've been looking out at my 10-day forecast, and our overnights are getting warmer and warmer. I could probably get these tomatoes planted out right now. If I wanted to just take them right from the cells and go and put them outside, well, I mean, I probably should harden them off a little bit, but I could probably get away with it. I just don't know. We have had late frosts around my area before, and that's something you want to be aware of, is not jumping too far ahead of yourself and getting things going because you see some really good weather ahead. I got a 10-day forecast, but I'm still, there's still days between that end of the 10-day forecast and when my last frost date is. So I want to wait just maybe about another week or so that I can get, even further outlook closer to my last frost date, just to be sure. And then we'll start to get them out. So I'll up pot them, and then it'll probably only be like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most. We'll have to wait, probably the end of this month. The last week of this month is probably when we'll start getting them out into our gardens. And I'm really excited. We've got lots of great tomato varieties, and then probably another couple of weeks after that, just to be more for sure, is when we'll start getting our peppers out and all of the other warm season summer crops that we have in our garden. So I'm really excited about all of that. And boy, let me see here. I got some catching up to do in this comment section. Let's get in here real quick and see who we have in. Oh boy. Lots of conversation already going on. Awesome. We've got Dee's Garden Adventures. I'm so excited to watch. I love Nicole. Awesome. We got Nicole coming up here in just a little bit. So just hold on. And we're glad to have you here. Also, Wickershire, great to have you here. And he says, so been waiting for this. And I can see already he's got the questions for our tomatoes. And sorry, Wickershire, I can't believe we ended up not having our guest today. I was really, again, hoping, I wanted to ask this question too. Are the new tomatoes sweeter or more acidic? That's a good question. And let's see here. Oh, let's see. He's already coming up with the good questions. Are the new tomatoes bush or vine? As far as I understood from the reading that I did, is that they were an indeterminate tomato. So I do, so a vine in that sense would be the right answer on that one. Are they disease resistant? Tons of great questions. I wish we really could have been able to ask our guest all of that too. Looks like we've got Sam joining in with us. Good to see you, Sam. And of course, greatest moderator on YouTube, Jay Dixon, joining us from Ontario, Canada. And also got an email just a little bit earlier. I'm glad to see you here, Jay. Jay was dealing with some really high winds, taking out power in her area there. So great that you actually made it. So I'm so glad to see you today. Awesome, Jay. Let's see, who else do we got here? Rob, of course. Great to see you, Rob. From the UK, it's 7 p.m. in the evening for Rob over there. Adam in the comments. Hello, everyone. Good to see you, Adam. Awesome. Let's see, who else do we got in here? Devil's Advocate. Great to see you. Awesome, awesome. And let's see. No, you got so much great guests here joining with us. Grow Big TV in the house as well too. Love Nicole. Awesome. Awesome. Great to see you, Joe and Corky from Grow Big TV. All right. What do we got here? All right. All right. All right. Let's get through here. I think we got most. I'm trying to look for anybody else. Hottie. Don't be scared, Nicole Smith Gardening. I like it. I like it. I know I put her on the hot seat today. I talked to her just before we got the show started and let her know about our cancellation and told her about how she went from being our opening act on the show to being our featured guest today. So no more pressure on you. It's going to be great. We're going to have fun today. That's for sure. LP jumping in the comments as well. Hello, everyone listening and lurking. Awesome. 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 Great. Great to have you here. Kathleen, so awesome to see you as well. Hello, everyone. Awesome. Awesome, y'all. Jersey girl jumping in the chat as well. Great. So awesome to see all of you here. So great. Really great to have you here. Great to have you on with us. Yeah, as we got a really, really great show ahead for you here. And as I mentioned, as we're talking about, we've got Nicole Smith joining with us here in a little bit. We're going to take a break here just for a moment, and then I'm going to come back. We're going to talk just a little bit more about that purple tomato. And I got a few little bit of thoughts about that. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Hi everyone, this is Sarah from Sarah's Seed Shop, and I'm here with this week's trivia question. About how many seeds does the average strawberry have? A, 100, B, 200, C, 300, or D, 400? We'll be back with the answer later on in the show.
All right. Do you know about how many seeds are on a strawberry? I know there's a lot, that's for sure. Definitely, as we could tell from the question, over 100, and that is a lot of seeds on a strawberry if that was the answer. We'll have to check out and find out here in just a little bit, but put your answers in the comments there. So again, today we were supposed to have a really fun discussion with Professor Cathie Martin from Norfolk Plant Sciences. Now, Cathie is the developer. She's the actual scientist who has been working for years on developing this purple tomato. And it is, and again, I haven't used the word yet, but a GMO. Now, when we hear GMO, we're automatically, I know what a lot of people think, and even myself went there as well too. And it is the first GMO, genetically modified organism, or genetically engineered, and not to be confused with natural genetic modification of plants and organisms, which can happen very naturally. There are lots of hybrids out there, natural hybrids, lots of different crosses and things that happen through natural pollination and cross pollination and all of that as well too. But these GMOs are actually developed right in a laboratory by splicing genes out of another uh, well, we'll use organism for the term for the moment, but taking something from another organism and moving it into another. And I think that's really where a lot of the confusion, especially the confusion on this new purple tomato, lies, is in the fact that we're talking about other organisms. Now, and I hate to use the word traditionally in a sense, in the sense of GMOs, but our normal GMOs that we're used to, that we've been seeing develop since the mid 80s or so, early 80s, mid 80s, when they started really finding success in these in these processes, as far as putting in different genes and to be able to get those other plants to be able to carry those characteristics. Now, for the most part, again, these traditional, the ones we're used to, are plants that take genes from really, truly other organisms. We're talking fish, we're talking reptiles, maybe pigs, other animals, birds, whatever. You know what I mean? If there's some sort of trait that one of these other organisms has that helps this plant grow better in these certain conditions that they want the plants to grow in, then they're going to try to use those and develop those. And they've developed several, as we know and understand in our modern food system, several genetically modified GMO plants out there. Now, a lot of these, for the most part, the modifications are, and I'm not sure about the plants themselves or what they are. There's just not enough research on what, say, health benefits or health non-benefits there are to these sort of plants, or organisms, as we would call them, because they are taking a totally different organism into their plant. That these are, built and or built, made and grown and developed so that they can really like grow either in really dry conditions, or to be able to really withstand. And this is where these get really bad, and I just really, my questions really start to arise from, is that they're developed so that a lot of them, so that they can handle pesticides, so that they can resist glyphosates and these chemicals, this just rotten, gross stuff that we end up using on our food. And it's just, and as far as those sort of GMOs go, I mean, there's just no way. I don't want to eat them. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to grow them. I don't really care about that sort of thing when it comes to our food system at all. Now, this new GMO purple tomato, however, this is where the real difference for me comes in when it comes to this new tomato, is that instead of, say, another organism like a fish or a reptile or a bird or a pig or some other sort of animal where we're taking a gene from, they've taken a gene from an edible snapdragon plant. They've taken the purple coloring gene, and I think it was a couple of gene markers as far as what I was reading in their website, that they took and brought that over into a tomato in order to increase the anthocyanin levels. Now, anthocyanins are an antioxidant that are really, a lot of research has proven that anthocyanins are very helpful a very helpful cancer fighting agent in plants. And people have been reaching for plants that are in. Our good friend John Kohler on the Urban Gardener here is from Growing Your Greens. He's a huge advocate of eating red plants, things that have deep reds and deep purples, because those are high in anthocyanins, and those anthocyanins are really, really good for us. I mean, extremely good for us. The number one, if you see most research out there, but the number one superfood in most places is considered the blueberry. A blueberry, very deep, deep blues, deep purple coloring, those deep colors creating high contents of anthocyanins. So that's what they were trying or working to accomplish when they developed this purple tomato, was to develop a tomato that has high anthocyanin rate levels to them. And so and they were successful as far as we can tell, and successful enough in developing a plant that that not only is purple and high in the anthocyanins, but they were able to develop a stable seed when it comes down to it too. So that's one of the things about this purple tomato variety is that it would be considered an open pollinated plant as well too, meaning that you can save the seed, and the next year you're going to be able to grow those purple tomatoes. Now, so I'm really interested. I really think this is fascinating. I've been fascinated ever since I first started learning about these sort of processes of genetic modifications in plants. The more and more I learned about some of these other ones and the reasonings for them, the more and more I backed away from them. But the more and more I learned about some of these other possibilities and thinking about things when it comes to what we can do if we're thinking about plant to plant crossing. I mean, we can't cross, and we talked about this actually a couple of weeks ago when we had on the cultivator of the world's hottest pepper. We had Smokin' Ed Curry on our show a couple of Sundays ago, and we actually kind of touched on this just a little bit. He was talking about something they've actually been working on their farm as well too, is taking peppers and being able to cross them or do certain things in order to get tomatoes hot. And one of the things is that they have not been able to find success in that. Whereas these sort of processes where we can take and remove the genes, maybe the capsaicin gene from some of these peppers and these hot peppers, and to be able to then put them into the genes of a tomato, then we might be able to see tomatoes that have hot heat levels like we do peppers or any other sorts of things. And I don't know. I mean, and to me, that's when my imagination kind of starts running wild. What kind of fun little plants could we kind of cross with each other and get some of these other sort of traits with them and see what we can do, because they're plants. These are edible plants. We could eat both, we could eat the genes on one side, we could eat the genes on another, so I don't know. And on that level, I find it really fascinating. I find the possibilities of what we can possibly do with plants very, very interesting when we can kind of take some of these sort of things. So I think there is kind of I wouldn't call it a middle ground, but there's sort of, I would say, kind of a difference of what we're looking at when we're looking at plant modifications when it comes to laboratories and what we're seeing as far as future possibilities. Now, where my concerns really lie when it comes to the new purple tomato is in the marketing and what we're going to be able to do with those as home gardeners. Now, they are now they've introduced this to home gardening for people out there everywhere to be able to grow and to be able to do that. Although they only had a certain amount of seeds, and I found out over the last week or two in researching that they've already closed out their seed availability for this year, which means that they've already sold out of all of their seed that they had available for that, which means that people really were interested in this and really bought them out very fast. So those seeds are out there. Those seeds are out there, and they are being planted and being grown by tons and tons of home gardeners out there. Now, there are probably several people and several companies who got their hands on these seeds as well too, and they're probably going to grow those and want to do certain things with them. But here's the deal with this. In order to buy the seeds, you have to sign an agreement. You have to sign an agreement that says that you are not going to sell these seeds. You're not going to develop new varieties with these genes and then sell the seeds. They have ownership of this, of these genetics. They have ownership of it. That's also one of the reasons why. And here's another thing: those seeds sold out very quickly, but they were only sold right here in the US. Now, that doesn't mean that by next season they're not going to be worldwide. I'm sure that now that they, the US is just the conduit, because it's the one market where they could get the authorization to sell them with ownership. Now, this is what this means. This means if you grow them and you grow these tomatoes, and you want to sell some to some friends, or you want to, that sort of thing, they can come and tell you to cease and desist. Or like other larger corporations, they could possibly come and send some sort of legal action in order to stop you from doing that sort of thing. And that's kind of where my concerns lie. I don't think ultimately, though, because of how it's out there now, and things are going to spread and all of that, that really for us home gardeners, that's going to be a real concern when it comes down to it. We're most likely trading seeds. When it comes down to it, I'll probably end up with some of these seeds next year by way of trade. You know what I mean? And that sort of thing. And as far as I can tell, that's all well and good. You can trade them out. You can do all that sort of stuff. It's just that your agreement says you can't profit from them. And really what this comes down to, and we touched also on this just a little bit ago, or a little bit back when we were talking to Ed Curry, the developer of that Carolina Reaper, was that, when he developed the Carolina Reaper and released those seeds to the public, he didn't have any sort of legal ownership of the genetics of those reapers in the reaper plant. And so what ended up happening was he released them out there, just wanting to do a cool thing to home gardeners and let people grow them out there and all of that. And then what ended up happening was all these other companies started getting a hold of the seeds and growing these out. And the next thing you know, you've got Carolina Reaper Doritos. You've got Carolina Reaper, just think of something that you can add some hot spices to out there, and people were starting to do all of that, and they was all utilizing this pepper, but yet all of these big companies are profiting off of the Carolina Reaper. They're making money. They're making tons of money. In fact, millions and millions of dollars were made off of the Carolina Reaper, but Ed Curry never got any of that because he just released it to everybody without any sort of ownership of those seeds. So in the long run, one of the reasons why he's holding on to his Pepper X seeds and hasn't released those yet is because he's waiting for this similar type of ownership. He's got to get the legal paperwork done with the government in order to make sure that, if that sort of thing happens, he could take legal action against any sort of company that might be trying to profit off of that sort of thing, so that, his time and his development of that, of that pepper, takes years to develop these sort of things and do that sort of stuff. So on that level, I can completely understand it. And I think Ed also, kind of relayed to us as well the similar thoughts that he has when it comes to home gardeners and all of that, is that when he releases the seeds, he hopes that everybody has fun with them, that they enjoy them, that they trade the seeds, that they get them out there and all of that sort of stuff. I do believe that's a very similar sentiment with the Norfolk Plant Sciences as well too, is that, for us home gardeners, have fun, enjoy them, trade them, do all sorts of things that you want to do in that way, but they have these sort of legal situations in order to make sure that, other people aren't profiting off of their work. So I can kind of understand it. I just hope ultimately in the long run that we don't see any sort of bigger things happen. And where I can see issues are where, when I talked about this before, Brian over at Next Level Gardening, and you can go back in his videos, it's probably a couple of months back when this was released, he put out a video that really, I think, gave one of the best concerns I think that we could think about, and that is the future of all of this. what's the future of this? You know, what are going to be the new ones? Or is there going to be a tomato eventually with capsaicin in it, and it's got hot spiciness to it, that sort of thing, and what's going to end up happening there, and those sort of things as far as legal action, and how many different varieties and how many different things, and where are we looking at when it comes to the future of all of that. And really all I can say when it comes to that is that and what I kind of mentioned before as we talked about this is that ultimately genetically modified organisms, the science and all of this is already out there. As we mentioned before, we use the term like Pandora's box, right? Pandora's box. It's open, can't be closed. This can't be closed. This science is out there now, and people are going to be utilizing it. More companies are going to be developing more varieties and all of that sort of stuff. So ultimately, I think what we need to be doing is just learning a bit more about what these processes are, what they mean for plants ultimately, and what are these new things coming out as they come out. Are they some sort of genetically modified plant so that it can resist pesticides and things like that, or grow better in your garden, and they took the genes from some other crazy organism and did sort of things like that. And if we learn about and see those things and really understand what we're looking at, then we can have a better idea of what we want in our gardens. I know and understand, and believe me, a lot of people, but in fact, again, as I think I mentioned, I already had to take down some comments already before this show even started, because there's a lot of people out there who are just, zero. This is absolutely, they want nothing to do with it. And I completely understand that viewpoint as well, too. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ultimately, there are plenty of things out there to grow. We got plenty of great crops out there, plenty of great tomato varieties and some dark tomato varieties. There's all sorts of different things for us to grow out there where we don't have to do that. Again, and as I mentioned before, as I talked about this, is I'm just a plant nerd when it comes down to it. I want to grow it. I want to see what's possible and all of that. When it comes down to it, maybe even try to play around and see if I couldn't develop like a beefsteak variety of this purple tomato or something like that, and have some fun in my garden with some of the genetics as well too. Some of those sort of things when it comes down to it. They are cherry tomatoes. So they're that's the only variety they have, is the cherry tomato variety. So I think it would be kind of cool to kind of play around with that and see if you couldn't come up with some other varieties and do that. And those seeds are out there now, and we'll probably be seeing those sort of things coming out as the years, in the coming years. So, a lot of things to be aware of when it comes down to it. For me, I think the biggest key to all of this is what are the modifications, and ultimately we're looking at edible plants crossed with edible plants. And as far as that goes, I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. I think we could look at some of that sort of stuff. And I, like many others, I'm not really interested in all of that other crazy GMO stuff either, too. So I think, when it comes down to it, it's really kind of a choice for all of us. And again, I really would have loved to talk about a lot of this stuff, ask a lot of these, different questions and things about this tomato with the professor about all of that. But we'll have to see when it comes down to it. Let's see here. I want to kind of come through here a little bit before we move on real quick. I know a lot of people are jumping in, and there's a lot of comments about this. Let's see here. Oh, and let's see here. One of the questions was who funded this? The funding comes from where is Norfolk Plant Sciences, and that was and ultimately could be some bigger company out there. I'm not even sure, when it comes down to it. Let's see, Sam here is like, what do you see? Hot topic: modifying a plant to make more antioxidant as opposed to modifying to be resistant to weed killers. Yeah, that's the biggest difference. I mean, we're talking about, edible plants here. and we're not talking about a development. They weren't developing this to be weed resistant, or they didn't put anything in there to make, or, for glyphosates and all of these sort of other things too. So I think, that's one of the things I find that's interesting. Right here, will GMO pollen contaminate the home garden? Well, they are tomato plants, being it's a bit harder to cross tomatoes. You got to open up the flowers. You got to really make an effort to really cross them. So I think it's a very minimal concern to think about pollen from these tomatoes going anywhere. I mean, I grow my tomatoes right next to each other all the time, and I save seeds every year from the tomato varieties I really like. And I've never, in the years that I've gardened, ever had a cross from any of my tomato varieties I grow together. On the other hand, I have had many different crosses from pepper varieties that crossed in my garden, growing right next to each other. One of the main reasons why I don't save seeds from my peppers in my garden is because they do easily cross. And let's see here. I know lots of comments, lots and lots of comments. Oh. LP question I have is, why artificially create a more nutritious crop when we can increase food nutrient levels by caring for our soil and employing more natural growing standards? That's true. That's true. Although, one of the things, and the thing that is, and I'm just going to give you a little background real quick. And I think probably this is something I actually haven't talked about when it comes to this situation. One of the reasons why I found John Kohler in some of his videos really interesting early on, that I caught on to, was because John is big on anthocyanins, and believe me, I grow tons of red stuff, blueberries, all that sort of stuff, because I am looking to increase my anthocyanins. I want these cancer fighting agents. And why? Because I have concern. I worry about it. My daughter and I lost her mother about 10 years ago to cancer. And it's something that affects our family a lot. So maybe on an emotional level, I think about this sort of stuff as well too. And so when I see something that's developed to increase cancer fighting ability of these sort of things, I get even more interested. So that's one of the things I think that, these people are coming from. It's the idea of creating these sort of things that can help. I mean, we're talking about cancers are increasing more and more and more. They grow and grow just like our gardens each and every year. And it's horrible. And if people are trying to make some sort of effort in order to do that, or to increase these sort of things that we can possibly do, that's great. There's probably supplements and anthocyanin things that we could do as well too, and everything. But when it comes down to it, again, there's lots of little ins and outs with things. And again, too, I totally and completely understand a lot of people's concerns. I just think that there are I think we need to dig deeper into the actual, ins and outs of what some of this stuff is and what it means. All right. Okay, let's see here. Sorry, you guys. There's so much going on. I'm trying to get through. I want to make sure I'm trying to address something there. Okay. And Jersey Girl was mentioning there are tons of purple tomatoes to choose from. Believe me, I've grown some dark tomatoes. I've never seen one where the flesh is actually purple, though. You can grow dark ones. Flesh, though, really, and that's really where they've got the difference in this one. This is a full, complete, just like a blueberry, ins and outs. The juice is purple, all of that sort of stuff. So you're getting all sorts of that sort of stuff. So again, let's see. Well, I hope I've not skipped it. I'm trying to go through. I want to make sure. Let's see. Dusty Flats. Oh, wait, right here. Wait. Oh, I mean, herbology. Let's see. They are self-pollinators. Yes. Yeah, self-pollinating, meaning they pollinate within the flower itself. So it doesn't need another flower to pollinate. And that's how tomatoes really work. Because that's one of the things too. You want to increase the pollination of your tomato plants. Once they start forming flowers all over the plants, go in there and shake that thing a little bit. In fact, I've seen people take those little battery operated toothbrushes and hold them up against the plant in order to create vibration. And that vibration will knock loose the pollen inside of the flower that's held inside of it. And that'll help increase your pollination of your tomato plants. All right. Well, anyways, enough on all of that subject there. Again, to really wish Cathie could have been here in order to help answer some of our questions and learn just a little bit more about all the science and the ins and outs of all of that. And I know it's, again, to just coming from my own perspective and my own thoughts about it. And again, too, there's nothing wrong with those of you out there who don't want to grow the purple tomato. And there's also nothing wrong with those with you out there who do. So you know what? Just let's have fun in our gardens and enjoy the plants that we grow. All right. So one more quick break here and the answer to our trivia question, and then we'll be right back with our featured guest, Nicole Smith Gardening. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
The answer to this week's trivia question is B. Strawberries are not true berries, and their seeds are actually known as achenes. These achenes are the true fruits of the strawberry plant, and each one has a single tiny seed inside of it. Strawberries come in many sizes and shapes and varieties, but most of them have about 200 of these achenes, or 200 seeds. Thanks for watching, and if you have a minute, head on over to Sarah's Seed Shop, where you can find garden seeds at unbeatable prices. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. Moving on with the show. Quite a bit of different show for everybody today. Again, sorry that we didn't have our original featured guest, but we do have with us, let's see here. I want to put in, it was originally, in fact, originally supposed to be our Are You Following Me segment, which I basically filled up with all of that talk about everything. We kind of switched everything up. So for today's featured guest,
you never know when you might learn something, and that's what this is about for me. These are people that I admire. Please welcome my next guest.
All right. Today's featured guest is Nicole from Nicole's Gardening, or was it Nicole Smith Gardening? Sorry, let me get that correct. How are we doing today, Nicole?
I'm okay, and I want to thank you for talking for so long, because I was able to calm down a little bit with some wine. So thank you.
Oh, I love it. You were telling me just when I first invited you how nervous you were, and I was like, no, don't worry about it. We're gonna have fun. All we're talking about is gardening here, right?
That's right. My favorite
That's
thing.
that's right. That's right. So, how's everything been growing for you lately?
Amazingly, because of course we're like 80 degrees now, so it's just everything's going. I've got everything in the ground, so
Right.
we're ready to go.
Right on, right on. So again, thank you for so much for joining with us, and thank you also for for all of today being just such a switch around and kind of a little bit of confusion on everything, and being able to stick around with us for a little bit longer and actually be our featured guest today versus our shorter segment at the beginning of the show. So really awesome of you to stick around with us and have this conversation today. So real quick, how about just introducing yourself to everybody who might not know you, and let
Oh,
us know where you're growing from, and about your channel as well.
all right. Well, I'm Nicole Smith. I am about 50 miles northeast of Houston, Texas, so Zone 9A. Really hot, really humid. We can pretty much grow 12 months of the year. We can grow all year round. Um, I've been gardening probably, I'd say I've been passionate about it about 15 years. Um, I think it probably started with with YouTube, with the juicing and the John Kohler, as a matter of fact, and the raw food. I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to try to grow my own stuff, and I
Yeah,
was hooked. So,
yeah,
um, and I brought that passion to this property. Before, I was in a small suburban backyard. And then about 7 years ago, we moved way north of town just to kind of get away from the city. But of course, the city has moved, it's grown up towards us. The city's getting closer and closer every year.
yeah,
But we have 1.3 acres here. And it was just nothing was on it. We moved here in a Class C RV. So we were living in an RV on this piece of land, with in a neighborhood with houses around us. And then we finally got a house put on it, and I started landscaping again. It started mainly with ornamentals and landscaping. That was like my passion. That was, I was like a big Garden Answer fan. Laura with Garden Answer.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
everyone's gateway drug channel to gardening, I think. And then I slowly made my way over to vegetables, and I've been a little bit obsessed with vegetables the last few years, but I kind of
Yeah,
want to get back into the ornamentals. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I like to have a few ornamental things. I like to have the flowers. I like to have those around the garden, but those are things that kind of came a little bit later for me. I started my outdoor gardening obsession with growing food. So,
Mhm.
and again, on the very similar reason, I kind of touched on that just a few a little bit ago, is when I was first starting and researching and growing my garden, all of that. I found John Kohler as well too, and I started learning about juicing and all these sort of things, and about utilizing plants for better health,
Mhm.
and that sort of thing, and then just really found his passion for growing and gardening in small spaces, urban spaces, and things that he was doing as well too really kind of connected me with me as well, because I didn't have very much space. So I got kind of both of those from him as well too. And from there, just really connected with the gardening community and all of that as well too. And just really, really, you know, again, too, my biggest passion in the world, growing and gardening and all of that, you know, and it's great to see. And where are you gardening from?
Near Houston.
Near Houston. Okay, yeah,
Hmm.
that's right. So you're
Very
nice,
hot.
very hot. Yeah. So you got to deal with it. And we get really hot during the summertime too. So here, but we got a
What's
kind of a
really hot?
mild winter.
What's really hot for you guys?
Oh, let's see. We had a couple of days of 115 this
Okay,
last year.
that's what I'm talking about.
We didn't dip below 100, I think, for about 2 weeks last summer.
Where are
And
you? Thought
I
you
live
were
in
in Canada.
I live in Southern Oregon.
Southern Oregon. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
In this valley, kind of inland, and just it's one of those things. It's just one of these little sweet spots for like almost like Arizona southern weather.
Oh, that's
So
crazy. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is really crazy. And makes it a challenge though too when we're growing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, growing in high heat is a definitely a challenge.
That's one of the big ones here is the heat for sure. Keeping
Mhm.
things hydrated, keeping
Mhm.
your tomatoes from shutting down because the humidity is and the heat, the flowers just drop off. So it's really difficult.
Yeah, yeah, and especially like our tomatoes. That's my biggest concern over the last couple of years. The biggest issue I've had in my garden is growing all of our tomato varieties. I've got a few that I know do pretty well that I've learned over the last couple of seasons, but I'm always trying new varieties. I'm always trying to do that, so it's always a test of whether or not they can make it through our
Hmm.
extreme heat. So I'm hopefully going to get them out here in the next couple of weeks, so we'll have even like about a month head start from what I would usually have
Okay.
in as far as getting them out into the ground and growing, and maybe we'll develop some stronger roots and bigger, stronger plants so that they can handle some of that early heat a little bit better than some of the younger
Exactly.
plants in previous seasons. Because when they start, it starts getting hot above 95 mainly, you start getting above 95, early 90s, someone's going to start stressing the plant a little bit, but about 95 and above, the plant's just going to go, hey, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to put any energy into these flowers. So you'll see flowers start dropping. They're not going to put any energy into keeping the small, the little small. I mean, if you got some fruits that are already a decent enough size, the
Right.
plant's going to hold on to those a little bit. They'll put their energy into those. But they're not going to put their energy into the smaller, weaker fruits that are developing. So you'll see those drop as well too. So yeah.
And we don't cool off at night either. I don't know if you guys cool off at night, but we'll still be 85, 90 degrees at midnight. So the plants just
Mhm.
don't get a break. It's
Yeah.
brutal.
No
It's
break
always,
at all.
yeah.
And they need some sort of sustained break. This was one of our biggest issues this last year. Like I said, we had some days where it was really extended days. And then our break we had in between our hundreds was like down to maybe 95. And then we
Hmm.
get like a couple of days of 95 and then it would go right back up again. And that's given no relief because it may have cooled down. Let's say, if we're in the 110, it's cooling down 15 degrees, but that 15 degrees doesn't matter for that plant at all.
No. No.
And you need it to get down to like at least 90 or so for a sustained period of time for the plant to readjust and to start coming back from that dormancy as well too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of pressure. So we deal with a lot of basically late season tomato harvesting around here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we get the plants. We try to keep them alive through the summer, do the best we can, hydrate them, give them a pat on the, you're doing well, you're gonna make it,
Hang in
all
there,
of that
buddy.
stuff. Hang in there, you know. And then when it starts to cool down in the fall, then the plants really start to kick back in. You'll start to see them grow, especially your indeterminates.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure, necessarily about the determinants as much, but your indeterminates are just going to kick up. They're going to start growing again, producing flowers, producing fruits, and we have a good couple of months worth of time when it starts to cool down through the fall before it gets too cold.
Hmm.
So that's really when we're really getting most of our tomatoes. But we'll see.
Okay.
So let's see here. Let's talk about one of the things that we love to talk about here on our show is everybody's gardening story. I mean, where does your garden story really begin? You know what I mean? Did you have gardening when you were growing up, or
You
is this something
know,
that you found later in life? I mean,
when I look back, there are moments where I realize it was always interesting to me. Like the natural world was always interesting to me. I think the first seeds I ever grew, I think my mom gave me a pack of carrot seeds when I was like 7 or 8, and I was fascinated to pull them and see, there was a carrot there. So that was, my first time growing anything. But in the woods, we were in Germany, so I was always in the woods growing up. My parents were military, and I was just fascinated by bugs and wildlife and plants. And I think when I was in college, the only class that I ever got an A+ in was botany. And that should have been a sign to follow that path, and I did not. So I got a degree in biological health sciences, but I really wish I had gone more into whether it be landscaping or horticulture or even agriculture. I don't know. I feel like I would probably be more fulfilled
Right.
my job if it wasn't property management, which sucks.
Oh, property management. Yeah.
You commercial, not apartments. Everybody says, "Oh,
Okay.
apartments." I'm like, no. These are office buildings.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've had some real fun dealings with property managers over my years as a
Mm.
residential renter. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah,
yikes.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that might
yeah.
be worse
Yikes!
than what I
You
do.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Ew.
Right, right. And I
Yeah.
kind of agree too. I kind of wish somehow that I'd found my passion for outdoor food gardening a bit
Mhm.
earlier, because of, I just, it would have been great to have had a head start on all of this, fun that I'm having now and enjoying now in my life, and been able to do that, say back in like even my 20s, in my 30s even. I didn't get into this, really till my late 30s. So
Mhm.
when it came down to it, I'm what Kay Cottrell would call a late bloomer in a
That's
sense.
right.
Right.
Oh, I used to watch her channel all the time. That was one of the first channels I think I started watching. Gosh, back in 2011 or 2012. I remember watching Late Bloomer. That was fun. That was a fun one.
Yeah. Kay is so wonderful. She's one of my favorite people, and one of the first people when I started my channel and started, because my idea was to go out and travel and visit gardeners and
Mm.
visit people. So I was like, I want to reach out to some of my favorite gardening channels, especially those in California that I watched a lot of, and to see if maybe I could get them to let me do a video. And being early on, it's not that easy to get some garden channels to do that sort of stuff. But
Mm.
Kay was awesome. She invited me out to her place. She had just most wonderful. I think if you
What?
remember watching her years ago, she had this really awesome front yard urban
Yeah.
garden. She was probably one of the most amazing front yard gardeners as far as food and space and just the
Agreed.
equity of the yard that she how she was able to handle that was just really awesome. And it was really great so I got to go there a couple of times. I got to go visit her a couple of times, do some videos. We did some live streams together. But I'll tell you how I'll share this real quick story with you, how I met Kay Cottrell. I love telling this story because it's so funny. I went to the National Heirloom Exposition. I believe this was 2016, maybe 17. But I was there, and I was doing some filming of a talk that was there. Vandana Shiva, I think, was there. I think I'm saying her name right. Anyway, she was doing a talk, and she was talking about seeds and seed saving and all that sort of stuff. And I wanted to make sure I got in there. This is going to be one of my fun feature videos of the show. And so I'm up in the front, kind of in the front where a bunch of people have got cameras, and it really looked like a press kind of area, right? So I get up in there with my camera, and I'm up in there squeezing my way in and trying to find the best angle to get of the stage. And I end up knocking into this person and literally like knocking in. It was Kay Cottrell, and I about knocked her over is what ended up happening as I'm trying to budge my way through so I can get an angle on it. And I immediately noticed I knocked into this lady, and I was like, oh, and I reached over. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I just knocked into you like that. And she turns and looks at me and says, oh, it's okay. And I'm just immediately like, Kay Cottrell, it's what? Kay, oh my God, I can't believe and instead of it worrying about me knocking into her, she knew exactly what I was trying to do. So what her immediate response was to suggest a better spot for me to get a better angle on the stage and the thing and all of that too, because she's as a former actress and all of that too, she knows about camera work and all of that sort of stuff. So she was really like, here, let me help you get this and do this right and everything. So I just a fun experience. I always remind her about that's how we first met. But she's really great. I love Kay. Right on. So let's see here. What is it? Okay, so now once you got started growing and all of that, and after a while, what was the thing that you really most enjoyed about that growing and gardening experience? Once you really started get used to getting your hands dirty.
I like that there's so many varieties of things that I never heard of, never saw at the grocery store, watching it grow. Like I really literally, before I started doing this, thought that all tomatoes were red and all carrots were orange, and they're not. And it's fun to look at the seed catalogs and pick new things and find out, what putting the seed in the ground and watching it grow. I mean, I'm out there, a couple of times an hour. Is it up yet? Is it up? Has it sprouted yet? I just want to take pictures of it. Everything about the process, from the seed to the harvest to even the, cutting it down and taking it to the burn pile or whatever, or to the compost pile.
Weeding, right? All of it.
I love all of it. Yeah. I obsess. It's obsessive. It's need an intervention.
Yeah. I know. I don't know if they do those, right? Garden interventions.
Yeah. Good thing they don't.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Thankfully, they don't. All right, here, real quick. I just noticed we have a question here. I want to make sure we get that in there too. Wickershire Project jumps in here with a question for you. Wickershire one about growing melons in Texas. Have you had any attempts or success of growing melons in Texas yet?
It's my success is sketchy. I've gotten one. I'm assuming all melons, cantaloupes included. Okay, I've gotten one cantaloupe that I picked before it was completely ripe. So that was a bit of a fail, and that's the only one I got that year. And then I got a watermelon last year, a Moon and Stars watermelon that was hairy. Okay, and I did a video about it. This watermelon had hair, like it was the weirdest, coolest thing. I did save seeds because if I can get it to grow again, I would love to have a hairy watermelon named after me. Okay,
right.
That would be amazing. But as far as getting like a big watermelon, no. Or a big cantaloupe, no. I'm growing several different kinds this year. Fingers crossed. I've already got the seeds in the ground. I'm going to do honeydew for the first time. Some orange watermelons for the first time. Some Minnesota midget cantaloupes. Kajari melon eludes me. Yeah. Every year I've tried so many times, and I get it to about this size, like a golf ball, and then it dies. So
right. Oh,
melons are a struggle for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've grown some. In fact, last year and the year before, I actually really had some really great cantaloupes that I grew. As far as like watermelon, I've grown a few. I do really well, and I'm sure it's probably easy for a lot of people to do well with the smaller varieties.
Mm-hmm.
My space doesn't really allow me for like really stretch out some vines and allow for some of the growth for some of the larger varieties of watermelons. I did have one though. I grew in my very back alleyway several seasons ago, and I grew it. It was looking really beautiful, huge watermelon, and I was just really surprised. And the reason why it was growing there is that it grew through the fence and came out the other side, and that's where the fruit was growing. And just a big, beautiful watermelon. I was looking so forward to it, but because I grow in alleyways, I get a lot of traffic. And it came out one day, and there it was not. And so my one big, beautiful watermelon I was able to grow that one year ended up becoming someone else's watermelon, but it was not ripe, so I'm sure they did not enjoy it.
There you go.
Karma, right? That's the thing too. I was like, man, because I kept going out there like every day, like, oh, is it ripe yet? Is it set? You know, I'm looking for, because you want to look for the tendrils to dry up. You want to make sure the bottom side's got that nice little yellowish to it. You know, you're looking for these signs, and it wasn't quite there yet. So
I love to thump them too. I don't know if you I don't know if it does any good, but it's just fun to thump them.
It's fun to do it, right? Exactly. Yeah. It's fun to tap the watermelon. Or if you ever see the gardening memes on social media too, where you see the bags of soil.
Yeah.
Everybody's all you think about is slapping the bag of soil. Exactly. I mean, if we're not having fun doing that sort of stuff, what are we out there for, right?
Exactly.
Right on. So what are some of your favorite things to grow? I mean, what are some of those things that you really look forward to growing each and every year in your garden?
I'm newly obsessed with tomatoes, okay, because of Jen Joy. I now must have all of the tomatoes.
All of the
So
tomatoes, right?
I didn't realize there were so many. And she is so excited about them in her videos. It's contagious now. I get excited about them. So now I'm growing 29 varieties this year. And I only have like 150 varieties of seeds. And I know she has thousands. So I'm just going to keep buying seeds until I have all of them. But then they'll just make more. And I don't think I'll ever get fully caught up with all the seeds that there are. But tomatoes, and especially the variegated ones. This year I'm growing variegated. I've got 4 different variegated for tomatoes. So that is what I'm most excited about. Peppers, I'm kind of trying to get more, I'm trying to get excited more about peppers. Just for some reason, I know there's almost as many, maybe not almost as many tomatoes, but I want the weird ones, the cool ones, the colors. I kind of want to look out into that garden and just see a rainbow of purple and orange and, green when ripe and, stripes and all of those things. I'm dabbling into herbs this year. I'm really excited for herbs. I kind of want to have my own apothecary. So I ordered a bunch of herbs to grow from seed. I've got marshmallow, thyme, lavender. I did really well with lavender this year. I'm shocked and surprised. We'll see how long I can keep it alive in Houston. We'll see. And then, of course, zinnias. I love zinnias. They bring in all the butterflies. They're so pretty. They live longer than dahlias, even though I am dabbling in dahlias this year from seed. But just gorgeous to have those zinnias everywhere.
Yeah. Gotta have the flowers. And again, too, talking about some of those things that make our gardens look really nice and all of that, but flowers have a real big part in our growing and all of that, especially for those of us growing food. A lot of food is started by flowers. Yep. And if you have other types of flowers, the really beautiful kind and all of that as well too, then we're really starting to bring in all those pollinators and really attracting them. They see those colors, it brings them in. They go, oh, flowers. And then when we attract them to those flowers, we're also attracting them to all of our other flowers in the garden. And so, having more varieties of flowers in your garden, and this is something I actually found out and I observed in growing my garden. In first few years, I grew all of these sort of things. And and I had successes. I had a lot of, this and that. But when I started introducing different flower varieties throughout the garden spaces, I started noticing higher yields from all of my different plants. And I was like, wow, I'm starting to get more, more peppers on my pepper plants. I'm starting to get more, different things, coming up and all of that from the different pollinators flying all around. And especially too, and another thing that's really great for pollinators and something I do as well is I let some of my herbs go to flower as well too. And you talk about like oh gosh, totally whatever. Anyways, a lot of these herbs, really when they go to flower, bees go crazy over. I'm not even kidding. I let some oregano varieties I go to flower, and I've never seen more bees in my life than when those things go to flower and stuff too. So that's another thing great about an herb garden as well, is letting a few of them go to flower, especially those like the oregano that put out a lot of really cool flowers that just get them going crazy.
It brings in the little hoverflies and the little beneficial wasps that'll, they'll parasitize all of your bad bugs. So bring in all the good guys.
Yeah. And again, too, and you mentioned that a little, I was wanting to mention that, was that you mentioned talking about this fascination with bugs and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if I necessarily had that fascination before I got into gardening, but when I got into gardening, and I'd run from a bee when I was younger. I mean, if I heard a bee anywhere, I was arms flailing, running down the road, wasps, anything like that. You know what I mean? whatever, you know, I was running. I don't run from them anymore, you
Yeah, I
know.
don't run for bees anymore. Yeah.
I'm not, it's just once I started learning more about gardening and learning about their participation in what we're doing in this circle of nature and all that sort of stuff, and how important they are. And then you start going, okay, wait a minute, these guys are really my friends. And then it started with bees, but then it started becoming all these other bugs, like you say, and these wasps and stuff. I mean, you talk about some wasps. You talk about running. I'd run from a bee. I would. I'd be like one of those things, you know. I mean, it comes to a wasp for sure.
Yep.
But now I just, you know, yeah, I kind of try to move away and let them do their thing if I see them. But I'm not all crazy about it like I used to be, because they have such a benefit to our garden. All of these sort of things. So the bug world has become a lot more familiar to me because of that.
I still don't do spiders though. Okay, just so you know. I know Dee's Garden Adventures was asking that. I can have snakes all over the place. I'll just walk over them. You get one of those big orb weavers. They're like this big in Texas. I will hurt myself, especially when you almost walk into one. Absolutely.
I love it.
Your soul leaves your body. Okay, I have a very funny video on my channel about that. Y'all should go find it. It's hilarious.
No doubt. That's so funny. In fact, I mean, nothing worse than running into a spider web, especially getting one in your face of all things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I mean, if there's any sort of bug or any sort of thing that I've been fascinated with probably my whole life before gardening and all that, was spiders. I do. And you can see videos. I'll get right up there on a black widow and show you how, you know, what's going on with them, and, you know, and all of that. And really, you know, again, too, it's learning a little bit more about the nature of what they are and what they do. And I know it's the eight legs. It's the eight legs just rolling around everywhere and what they can do. But I even have, in fact, there's one guy right up here right now. He's kind of hanging out in my light right now, watching the show with everybody right now. Jumping spiders. I have jumping spiders around the house, and I want to tell you, they are probably one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, they're okay.
But they were the hardest for me to get used to, though.
Really?
To me, they're the scariest. They move fast and they jump. They literally jump.
They're fluffy.
But they are the most friendliest spiders you'll ever find. In fact, I had one once, because I use this. I have a laptop right here, and I use when I am editing or whatever. I had one once come up on the top of my laptop here and basically almost walk up and down the side of it and stand up, and it was waving at me and everything, and gave me a high five.
Cute. What?
Yeah,
that's cute.
It was one of the coolest things that ever happened in my life.
That one can live. That one's fun.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So I really love the jumping spiders. Other spiders don't like. I mean, fascinating. Orb weavers. I mean, come on.
Ew. Come to Texas.
Look at those webs and the. Oh my gosh! I'm telling you. Anyway, right? No doubt, no doubt. Let's see. He was saying that they're fluffy. Yes, those jumpers are so cute. They got the really cool eyes. They got everything right up front. And again, too, it took me so long to get used to them. Here's a bug that fascinates me so much, and I'm still having a hard time being around and handling them. I'm getting more and more used to them, but I'm having the hardest time is praying mantis.
Oh.
I introduced some praying mantis to my garden a couple of years ago, and now they're putting their egg nests out, and I've seen them grow, coming through the garden last year, and hopefully again this year as well too. But those things, I mean, they are the most. I mean, they look like aliens, but they're the most human-like of insects. I mean, they can stand on two legs. They got two arms. They got a head that moves and will shake and look at you and all of that. You know, the mouth that looks like it's, you know what? I'm telling you. So when it comes to bugs, I do have my own that I do kind of, I don't know, trying to. I get them on my hand and my hand's shaking a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, here, back on the plant.
Yes. Ugh.
but everybody they're like so friendly, and they're so, you know what I mean, they'll interact with you similar to like the jumping spiders and all of that sort of stuff as well too. But I don't know, I think it's the alien look, you know, and the fact that they
Yeah.
can do everything and their head turns at you and looks right at you and almost looks like they're talking to you in a sense, and I'm like, oh, that is just too strange.
And then they take off and fly, and then I run screaming.
Yeah.
I don't like large flying things.
Yeah,
we have
and they're
those
not
big
so
flying roaches here. I'm not doing it.
and they're not so bad when they're young, and they're just
The little ones
things.
are cute, but it's when
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
getting, 4, 5 inches.
Littler the cuter too, because they come out like almost like they look like they're full size, and they just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow
Until
and
it's
get to
not.
be like,
Mhm.
yeah, until it's just huge. And like you said, they expand those wings on you while you're holding on to them.
No.
Ah! Go on your way. But again, as far as I've ever known, anybody who really likes them and really enjoys having them is that they're really friendly and really not that big of a deal when it comes down to it. So I'll get used to them when it comes down to it. But oh boy, let's see. Okay, so what are some of your least favorite things to grow in the garden, Nicole? I mean, there's got to be things that you just, you've tried growing, or you have grown,
Mm-hmm.
and you just didn't like. Is there something like that you've grown in your garden?
That I've grown and didn't like. Not much that I've grown have I not liked. I struggle with the squash just because of the vine borer here. I can't hardly get one. I could get one, and then the vine borer has just destroyed it. I've performed so many surgical procedures on squash to try to save it. I've tried preventative measures like with the kale and clay, and Captain Jack's dead bug brew, and trying to coat the stems, putting foil on the stems, in injecting. I have this little syringe thing they gave me when I had my wisdom teeth out, so it doesn't have a needle, but it's like a little irrigator, and I would just shoot BT up the stems. I could not keep those vines alive, and it's real frustrating because I like squash. I can't seem to get it.
Again, that's just one of those things I haven't had to deal with, is the vine borers.
I
get some squash. I get some squash bugs for sure.
Yeah,
I had to have that
different.
issues, and those things can be really difficult to deal with if you're not handling them properly. But I haven't had to deal with vine borers. You try or look into resistant types. I know there's certain varieties of squash that don't have the type of vine that borers get into.
I tried Tromboncino. Vine borer killed that. Vine borer killed that. It wasn't supposed to. And then the not the honey nut, but the other one, butternut, that was supposed to be more resistant. It killed that. So I'm gonna have to. Maybe there's some hybrids because I'm doing heirlooms. Maybe if I tried some hybrids. And then I thought about doing I bought some seeds for the Blue Hubbard, kind of like as a trap crop. But then I'm like, I'm just breeding them somewhere else so that more can come back later. So yeah, butternut's a lie. D's Garden Adventures. Butternut's a lie because they kill mine every year. So
they kill yours every year.
This year, what I've done is I have put some squash seeds in grow bags with like a pepper cage, tomato cage thing, and I'm going to cover it with row cover. I just did this last weekend. So I'm going to cover it with row cover, and I'm going to keep them covered because I saw a vine borer. They're already out already in my garden. It's beginning of April. They're already out. So I want to keep them covered until they start flowering, and then I'm going to try to hand pollinate just to see if I can get something.
Yeah, that's gotta be, again, one of the real frustrations I get with gardening is there's just so many different possibilities for something to go wrong. Whether it's like as we were talking about, high heat, temperature, those sort of things, and then again, pests. Depending on what kind of pests you're dealing with, whether you're dealing with bugs or you're dealing with animals, or
not so much animals, thank goodness.
But
the heat. And the vine borer and the leaf-footed bugs. We have leaf-footed bugs here, and they're kind of like a stink bug on steroids. But they just suck the life out of your plants. They're real bad with tomatoes. They just leave little pinprick little things all in your tomatoes where they've sucked on them. Then you can't eat them because that's gross.
Yeah,
I'm mad about it.
Let's see here. What was Wicketshire saying here? What was it? We could try as squash growers to 100% soil cover the vines like they do for prize winning pumpkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if you just really got those in your soil or in your area, have you tried just locating, just do some crop rotation in a sense? Trying to maybe locate them in a
Because they're
different
a
area?
flying moth. I mean, they just they
True,
find
true.
it and lay their eggs. They're
They just,
awful. My
yep.
stems will be covered in eggs.
Oh my gosh.
I have thought about not growing any for a few years and see if maybe they just forget where I am, get them out of the soil, because they'll come up from the soil, from their little pupas where they stay, when it's not the season. I've thought of maybe I should give it 2 or 3 years. My very first year growing vegetables on this property, I didn't get the vine borer till very late, and I was able to get some zucchini. So maybe that's what I need to do.
So really, I think in the long run, what you're talking about is your best bet is like covering your plant, like you're saying. Just try to avoid it from being able to, when it's at its egg laying point in time of year. And again, I haven't dealt with this before, so I don't have the experience to be able to think about how it works and what you would do and all of that. But like I said, there's nothing more frustrating than having something come in and just destroy all of your hard work and everything you're looking forward to. It's probably one of the leading causes of frustrated gardeners who end up giving up on a lot of stuff is because of, having those sort of limitations to growing. And they're just some of them are, for new gardeners, I suppose, really feel like they're outside of your control in a way, especially if you start seeing these heavy infestations and stuff. But there are some things we can do, and there are people who find successes. And the main thing I would say is just really researching some really borer resistant varieties. Maybe try some covering like you're doing with those other varieties. If it really does kind of suck though to limit yourself to certain things as well, because there are there's some really good ones that are really can be infected. So I really, really hope you're able to figure that out too. But
thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, then too, and as far as like least favorites and all that sort of stuff, when it comes to that, there are some things I like when I'm not a big okra. I grew okra to try it out because I'd never really tried it.
It's so slimy.
Oh, I didn't really enjoy it much, and I'm sure. And I've had some gumbos and things like that before, so I had a little bit of a taste of okra before, but never really thought about it or anything. It's like, what does it really taste like? So I grew it and didn't care for it much, but I still grow it.
Yeah,
I still grow it because I got friends who like okra. I got friends who like eggplant that I don't really care for either, so these are some of my least favorite plants. But even if I have least favorites, I still grow some of them because I love sharing with friends, and a lot of friends love getting stuff from my garden and all that stuff too. So it's one of those things that I get to do being a gardener, is to share with people and to share things that they really like.
Me too. I hated okra growing up. Hated it. And I grew it myself for the first time 2 years ago and fried it myself and liked it. So I'm doing 7 different kinds of okra now this year.
So you started off with disliking it. Like, this is something like just had this memory of it that was So what did you do? You say you just fried it up? That was
I just fried it up. I wouldn't even eat fried okra growing up and as an adult because the seeds were a little slimy. I hated it. But for some reason, I grew it myself, brought it in, chopped it up, breaded it, put it in the peanut oil. And for some reason, it was flipping delicious. I almost became addicted. It was so good. And it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely hated it. So, I changed my mind. Things are more like Brussels sprouts. When I tried my own Brussels sprouts, which are super hard to grow, by the way, at home, when I roasted homegrown Brussels sprouts, they were so tender and just the taste was so wonderful. It just made me want to cry. Like, the stuff out of your own garden tastes so good. So good.
Yeah. I want to actually put this one up. Dee's garden was saying that peppermint is supposedly a deterrent. according to Joe. I have some in pots, but it probably needs to be down closer to and growing all around the squash. Yeah, that's one issue with mint. You definitely want to make sure it's in some containers. You got it anywhere your thing. In fact, it's one of the things I also found too with some mint that I grew. I've got it in containers, but if your containers got some good drainage holes on the bottom, you got to watch out for that as well too, because they'll find their way through all of that as well. So, you just want to be able to keep a really good eye on mint if you're going to be growing it around your spaces. But I think if it works, get some in some containers, put them all around, grow, maybe mint in general, not just peppermint, might be something you could try. A bunch of
anything
different kinds
fragrant. That's a good idea to grow something that has fragrant foliage up and around your squash to maybe mask it from the pest so it can't find it or can't smell it, can't taste it, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what someone else was mentioning. Brussels sprouts. I was wondering if they were mentioning this as least favorites.
Oh, hey, Denise.
Brussels sprouts have been one of a fascinating plant to me, and I've actually grown it successfully once.
Same. Okay, same.
Because it's such it takes a long growing process for Brussels sprouts, and I only grew them successfully once, and it was by accident too. Because I started them up in spring, got the plants going, got them growing, and then summer comes around, the high heat and all of that, and all I'm doing is babying them like I'm doing with all my other plants to stay alive, hold out through this heat, and all of that. And then, I had a couple of plants that by, late August or so, just they weren't looking all too happy, but they were still alive. They were still doing all right, and didn't die from any sort of aphid infestations. The white fly didn't get to them, which was key, as I've found in trying to grow the last couple of seasons. But so if I can avoid them dying during the summer through the heat, being susceptible to like the white fly and the aphids, so they don't get their energy all sucked out of them or drained out of them by the heat. I can keep them alive well enough going into September when the weather starts to cool down. They perk right back up. They start growing new leaves and all of that. And then by the time you get into October and November, when it really starts to cool down, man, they really start to really come alive, and all of those little florets or Brussels sprouts start popping up on the sides of the stems. It's just so cool how like they just grow right down the stalk of the plant. And my kid self would be like, "You're crazy trying these things. You're crazy. Who would ever touch one of those things, right? Little tiny miniature cabbages. Come on now." But man, I've fried some of those up with some garlic, just basic salt and garlic, man.
So good.
And they were delicious. It was so good. And so I've been trying. And last year's I just couldn't keep the white fly off. I was able to manage the aphids when they came through, but the white fly was just too hard. Really brought them down and weren't able to get them to grow again. So I'm going to try again this year. Hopefully I can get them to grow and do all right. Yeah. Oh, and have you ever seen, I think it's called the Java Takaba tree?
No. That sounds amazing. I'm writing that
down. You gotta look this up.
Java
if anybody else, yeah. There was one of these down at the Urban Homestead down in Los Angeles where I was introduced to it. And so, similar to a Brussels sprout that grows all of the little miniature cabbages up the main stalk, right? Yeah. A Java Takaba's tree's fruit, which are like little tiny dark plums.
I've seen it. Okay, yeah.
Grows up the trunk, up the stalk of the tree. It's one of the coolest things ever, too.
Saw a picture on Facebook.
Yeah. Amazing. I just love that stuff. I love that stuff. That's one of the things that just fascinates me about gardening and growing is these strange, weird things that happen and plants that grow and do these sort of things.
The weirder, the better, man.
Yeah, right? The weirder, the better. Exactly. All right. I'm trying to get through here. That's the fun part of doing the show, though, too, is to read comments while we're also talking, too. Well, I don't want to make sure we're losing anybody here. But anyways, all right, let's see here. So, okay, now you've been gardening, you've been growing, you've been doing all this sort of stuff. Where, when, how, and what inspired you to get a camera out and start
No.
recording yourself while you're in your garden and sharing it with other people online?
Well,
This always fascinates me because I felt, and I'm sure you did as well too. When I first started doing that, it was kind of like, oh, what am I doing? This is weird. Oh my god! But any longer, and I started having fun. But how did that work out for you?
yeah, well, because of my obsession with gardening the last few years, I flood my Facebook page with pictures of my garden. And I know for sure, I'm sure more than just these two, but my son and a former coworker's like, you need to start a YouTube channel. Like, you are posting all this stuff about your garden and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm an introvert through and through, through and through. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. I don't, no. And then, of course, like everyone else, the pandemic, and we were sent home for to quarantine. And I'm still doing my gardening thing on my lunch break. And I'm like, I had gone plant shopping with a girlfriend, and she had texted me and asked me, how are your plants doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, let me just send her little text clips, video clips of myself. Like, here's this, and blah, and I'm talking about it, and here's this. And I just would text these little short videos to her. And I was like, you know what? I watched them back, and I'm like, that's not terrible. It's terrible. So I put them all together into a video and uploaded it. And that's my very first video, y'all. It's still up there if y'all go back and watch it. It's just a bunch of text message clips of me telling my friend how my plants are doing.
Oh, nice.
And since I had the time being at home and not commuting an hour each way to work, I was able to get out and film in my garden. Like, literally, quarantine was the best year of my life.
Oh, my. I know, for gardeners, it was a great time, wasn't it? It was really great time for a lot of us. Although, as I've said before, I wish was able to be a little more on top of things when it came to that time as well too. I had my own more personal issues during COVID time, so versus that. So when it comes down to it, it was what it was. But I love hearing the stories how a lot of people have found gardening through that period of time, because it was a big, it really, unfortunate to say, but it was a big boon for us gardeners in the gardening community when it came down to it. I do, when you were mentioning about people encouraging you to share, that was a very similar thing for me when I got started. I have some video and photography background from college. I went to college for photography and photojournalism and journalism in general. But it was years later I found gardening, and these spaces that I grow in, are on alleyways. We grow in some unused city spaces, alleyway gardens. I've got a carport rooftop that we had a pepper garden up there. And again, like I said, we have people who walk through. I have people who specifically walk their dogs and come through this area just to come check out the garden and what we've got growing and all of that. And over doing that for a few years, I had several people who walked through and be like, man, you need to share this. You should put this online. Or some people would just ask, you got a YouTube channel? You should, or, I'd be like, no. They're like, well, you should, because this is really cool, And so through that, and already having a great, connection with the gardening community and other gardeners online, a lot of the other bigger gardeners too, before they really blew up themselves, and following along with that, I was like, yeah, maybe I could do that, go back to learn, getting a camera and doing some photography and video and kind of doing some journalism when it comes to gardening and all of that too. So it was other people who kind of pushed and encouraged me through the stuff I was doing as well too. I think that's really kind of great. Yes. Right on. And So, what are some of those things like, do you have any like favorite videos you've done, any sort of things that you really like to do in your content or you really like to
Um,
share?
well, I have to say, in case people don't already know, I'm quite funny. Okay. And then when I'm not being interviewed and being nervous,
Right.
and it all happens completely unscripted, out of nowhere. Just the funniest things keep happening, or the funniest things just fall out of my mouth. Um, I do have a lot of wine while I'm in the garden, so I'm not entirely sober all the time in there, and it's just hilarious. The dogs are hilarious. And I just capture the craziest, weirdest, beautiful things. I'll find a weird bug I've never seen before, or just beautiful butterflies playing. I mean, it's just every time I go out there, I don't even have a plan. I'm just like, all right, well, I need to get some things done, and I'm going to film it. I'm not sure what it's going to be. And then when I edit it, I'm like, you know what? That's pretty amazing. That's awesome. I think my funniest one is I had gotten some new overalls from China, and I got a 3X thinking I'm going to need to order a little bit big because I'm probably going to be considered very large over there. These things were so huge that I looked like I was wearing a clown suit or giant hammer pants or something. And that video still cracks me up. I'll still watch it on occasion because it's just hilarious. But I love putting humor in my videos. I think it just
Yeah.
makes it more fun to watch. And I do talk too much. I know I talk too
Yeah.
much. Y'all. Can't help it. For being an introvert, I think it's because it's just me. Like it's
Yeah.
just me talking, and I have a lot of things to say, and so I'm just yapping. So I do
Yeah.
get it out a lot.
Right, right. It's like I think it's a great kind of outlet for an introvert, right? So you
Yes.
don't have to have all of the people around you. You just got a camera and you talk to it, so it's not actually a person, even though that camera is actually people on the other side. So you don't have to kind of relate to it like that. So you can kind of create that kind of differentiation between what the situation is there. And I love that, I love the humor. I don't find myself to be that humorous of a person. I try to incorporate some things here and there, but I'm one of those people that every time I try to, I watch back on the video and I'm like, oh my God, dude, did you do that? What are you doing? What's going on? Should I really put that in there? One of the things I do though with my videos is I put outtakes at the end so that like when I make
Oh,
mistakes or I do things or something funny kind of happens, like or which like I've had times like when you're trying to like get down low to show something before I'll fall over trying to keep my balance or something like just all that kind of stupid fun kind of crazy stuff that happens when you're filming. I kind of cut those out and put those in at the end of the video to kind of show a little humility and have a little bit of fun and that sort of thing as well too. But I think that's about as close as I get. And
yeah.
it's a lot of people can tell who watch the show too, though. I'm very similar to you. I like to talk. I can go on and on and on. I can talk all day. In fact, I could talk with you all day about all of this, but ultimately this is a show and people got lives to get on with and it's got to end at some point in time. As much as we would love for it to go on all day.
I know. I got to go pick up my car at 3 from the shop. So.
Oh, you gotta go get your car.
I do. Sadness.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend
know.
that money. It's been in the shop. Oh, so much this last couple weeks. But anyway, hopefully it's fixed now.
Yeah, believe me, I've got a car that's waiting to go itself right now too, and I'm not looking forward to what it's going to cost. They always cost way too much, but then you're always really, really thankful when it gets done, though, too. Like, it's
Especially with
nothing
my
worse
commute.
than not having a car, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'd much rather buy like a greenhouse or some plants.
Right,
Something
exactly. My
else.
money could be spent better somewhere else for sure. Right on, right on. So, again, too, I really want to thank you for joining with us today, and not only joining us but hanging on and being our featured guest versus just being our shorter conversation at the front of the show. And really wonderful to talk to you. I was really looking forward to it. We did get to meet previously over at Rochelle Mingham's channel, Brampton
Yeah.
Gardener, which was really fun a few weeks back when I got to jump in on a free afternoon and hang out with you guys. And that's where I got to meet you. So I was like, well, she's really funny. We got to get her on the show. Definitely great conversation, great interview, and wonderful to have you with us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was an honor. I mean, you have some amazing guests, so I'm honored that you asked me. So thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. All of our guests are amazing. We only have amazing guests on this show. That's all there is to it. Unless, I guess, and I guess some of those don't make it if they don't make it, right?
Their loss. Okay.
Their loss.
Oh, I love
Exactly
you,
what I
Christina.
think.
It's my sister, devil's advocate there. That's
that's
my
your
baby
sister. Oh, how awesome. How awesome. Great to have family here coming and showing some support. Yeah, excellent. So again, Nicole, thank you so much for joining with us here today and sharing with us all about your gardening and growing there. And everybody, get down in the comments there. We've got a link to Nicole's channel there. Go and subscribe if you haven't already, for sure. All right.
There's my mom. Thanks, Mom.
Mom's here too.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom. Sorry, we're just ending now, but great conversation. Thanks again, Nicole. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future. All right. Again, another great conversation. When it came down to it and we lost our main featured guest for the show, I was like, oh man, this is unbelievable. What am I going to do? I can't call on anybody. But again, as I mentioned, I got to talk with Nicole and Rochelle, one of our previous guests, on a live stream that she had on her channel. And I was like, you know what? It's going to be a great conversation anyways. Let's just have her on for a longer, fun conversation about gardening. And again, it was really fun, really enjoyable. So glad to have her on and really glad that she was able to hang out with us here for the extent of the show. And again, too, if you're all here still with us right now and you haven't yet already, please hit the thumbs up, click the like button there, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, help us get up over 15,000. I haven't had a chance to check yet, but I'm sure it's going to happen any moment. Sometime today, we're going to pass our 15,000 mark for the channel here, which is really, really awesome. Really awesome. So awesome to have all of you joining with us in our gardening community. And one more quick promotion for our sponsor, IV Organics. Check out ivorganics.com and go and get some of their 3-in-1 plant guard. I'm telling you, every gardener's got to have this. I truly believe this. I don't promote very many products. I do mostly a lot of just organic, regenerative type of stuff. I don't use a lot of things in my garden spaces, but I truly believe in the 3-in-1 plant guard, especially for those of you who are growing trees. You've got to get the IV Organics 3-in-1 plant guard. And if you go to their website, ivorganics.com, and buy some of that plant guard, be sure to use our promo code GROW10, GROW 10, and you'll get 10% off of your purchase there. So definitely go check that out. I highly recommend it. And also, too, if you haven't checked out some of our previous shows, I mentioned at the top of the show last week, we did talk with Linda Votter from Garden Inspired Life here on YouTube. Another great, wonderful gardening conversation. And also, as we mentioned, we had Rochelle from Brampton Gardener with us as well on last week's show, plus all of our other previous shows. Go check those out. Plus, our Sunday edition of the show last week was with Rachel Andorfer from Oxheart Gardening, and we were talking all about getting our garden spaces all ready for the growing season. And be sure to check out tomorrow's Sunday edition, as we'll have with us Scott Wilson from Gardener Scott. He joins with us every second Sunday of the month to come and answer all of your really pressing gardening questions and all the things you're wondering about. Some of those things I'm gonna made a note so I can definitely dig in with Scott tomorrow about the vine borer that we were talking about. I don't have much experience with that myself, so I'm definitely going to be sure to touch on that subject with Gardener Scott. So he'll have some really good information for us for sure on that. And then again, be sure to join with us as well too next week. For next Saturday's show, we will have with us Ashley Thomas, the Mocha Gardener. She wrote a really great book called How to Become a Gardener. We had her on the show last year and had just another wonderful gardening conversation and interview with her. So I'm really excited about bringing her back on the show to talk again more about what she's got growing on. I know she moved recently from where she was last year, so we've got a lot of things to talk about her new gardening space. So definitely be sure to come and join with us next Saturday as well. So each Saturday and Sunday, right here on the Urban Gardener channel at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all of you on the East Coast, and adjust for any of those other time zones you might be in, because you could be in England like Rob, or you could be in Australia like some of our other viewers as well too. So you got to adjust to Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Saturday and Sunday right here on the Urban Gardener channel. And I look forward to seeing all of you this next week. Thank you for joining with us.